Hey, so this is an update to a previous tutorial I did with making deformable snow. This is, I would say, a much more easier way to do it. It's more accurate. It's quicker. It's just much more convenient way to make it, and I would say the result is maybe even better. Um, I will say though quickly about if you find that the texture is, like you see, a bit stretchy down, you can quickly fix that in the material itself. But I find that you don't. It's not a big problem, so I haven't fixed it myself. Um, but yes, so this is definitely a lot nicer way to do it, and this is how the final product will look. Uh, so let's go over. So first, before you do anything, I would say go over to project settings, type in UV, and there should be a support UV from hit results. This by default is turned off, so turn it on, and it will ask to restart. Just do that. Restart right away because it won't work without it. And then when you get back, then I would say open and do a new level. And just delete that, we don't need that. And we're gonna create a new landscape. By default it's 8 by 8, but I'm gonna set it to 4 by 4 for now. And just create, and then quickly just do some deforming to get some details in. You can use any kind of static mesh you want. It has to be a static mesh for now. I don't know a specific way to do it with landscapes, as you can't make blueprints out of landscapes. So it's a bit of a downside, but it is possible in a different way. But that would be for another video, because it needs a bit more math, and it's a bit different way of doing it. So let's just mid it out quickly, and then I just do select it and do export, and call it snow. There we go. And then we import it. Import, and there we go. And we can delete this old landscape and just put in this new one. Make sure it is at 000. And yeah, as you might have seen, there's I'm gonna I copied this over for a tutorial. So you need to set the game mode and third person game mode, and set the third person character to what is needed. You can use any actor you want, but I'm going to use this. So also to quickly go over the texture set in here. It's just a simple black and white texture that I mostly use for roughness, and a normal map that I got out of it from Crazy Bump. And then the footprint is just a quick footprint. I used originally this texture, or this I found online. So, but you can use whatever you want. The main thing is that you need to convert it to a type of map like this that's basically a height map. So it should actually be inverted, but for this purpose I'm gonna use it as it is here. So what actually is going to happen, the black part is what's going to push down, and the white part is pushed up. Well, if it's more than one, it pushes it up, so a default texture won't push it up. So yes, and then a third person character, or whatever kind of actor you want to use. The main thing that's going to be done in this actor is tracing, so it's going to trace down to find the UV coordinates of where the footprint is going to be placed. So you can use anything, but I'm going to use this third person character for now. Okay. So yeah, we got this in now, and yeah, that's good. So next step is we need to make a snow material. So new material, snow, and let's just close some of the tabs. There we go. And this snow, I have it more complex than it needs to be. It doesn't need to be more advanced than actually just having. You actually only almost need the the displacements map that we're gonna make later and actually just place it straight into, for example, world position offset. But I'm gonna show you the way I made mine. So start off with that color, make it almost white but not full. We never like having full white. It doesn't look very nice. And we need to import our textures. So this and this temp texture. The temp texture is just white. It's a very small texture, and the only reason is just temporary to have it there, so it doesn't disturb anything. Okay. So let's see. We multiply. Oh yeah, yes. So this temp texture, we just make it into a parameter, and then just call it like this for displacement. And this is something that also again isn't needed, but I like using this white and then multiplying it by this. Just do a quick lamp because I don't want it to be completely dark, but this is gonna start off white, and as it's being drawn out, it becomes black where it gets pushed down. So I don't want it completely black. I want it 0.5 so it becomes like half gray, and then multiply that. So that means wherever the snow is pushed down, this displacement is pushed down, it's going to put a gray texture in there to make it darker. And I just find it looks nicer. It doesn't look like, it looks more like it's actually pushed down. And then we do a quick U, just holding U and clicking to get this, and do a quick multiply, and holding 1 and clicking to get this. So yeah, converting that to a parameter and just having like snow scale. So we can later, if you want to control the scale of the snow, because I just like to have that option. And by default I set it to 0.1. So yeah, just put this in here and put this in here. So we have those, and then just drop them into roughness and normal. And if I set the scale up to 1, you can see that it's quite a simple, nice snow effect, and I kind of like it. So set it back to 0.1. Okay, and yeah, that's more or less it for the actual texture of the snow. It doesn't need to become more complex like that. Now we're gonna need to do the more complex things, and that is actually pushing the snow up. So for this case, I'm actually gonna use tessellation, because I find it looks it adds more detail in, and you have more options. And setting this to 100, just so that because the higher up the snow goes, the more you can see the cracks in it almost, just because when it's close enough, if it's too close to the camera, or if it's behind the camera, it's going to treat it, because it adapted tessellation on, it's going to treat it as low tessellation because it's technically off camera, but because we are offsetting it, it doesn't actually know where the offset is completely, and it kind of fucks up. So setting that to 100 fixes that, and crack-free displacement to make it look a bit nicer. Okay, so yes, let's go here. So we need to push it up and down. I did try to do this with just pushing each pixel straight out, like from its position, which is more or less like scaling it up as it now. But yeah, the problem is though that snow doesn't, if it's like sideways, it's gonna be like pushed in here, like sideways inwards, and snow would fall straight down. So we only wanted to go up and down, not sideways. So we're gonna have this, and then this is more or less, this is to make it only go in the blue vector, which would be the set direction. And then we take the vertex normal, and we take out only mask out, because we only need one direction. So mask out the blue, so we only get up and down. But if you were thinking this would be enough to just put this straight into wall displacement, unfortunately it isn't. We need to multiply it a bit to see it. 30. But if I put this straight into it, it's only white, So even if it's only white on the top and becomes more dark, it still doesn't. It still goes sideways. So we need to multiply this out with blue. That means it only goes in the up and down direction or Z direction. So roll displacement, and there you go, up and down, and then we just out from here we can have quick parameters, so we can control how deep the snow can be. So offset, okay, and by default I set it to like 10 maybe. To make it look nicer, maybe just do it like this. There we go. So this is the basic, like up and down. It pushes the snow up and down, and no other direction. Now, to make it the deform, we only need to actually multiply this by this displacement texture. But just having the displacement texture isn't enough, because we do need to actually set coordinates to 1, or at least that's the only way to really make it accurate without doing a lot of extra work. So setting this text coordinate to the 1 means it goes to the it's going to use the light map, which the light map, because it covers the whole thing only once, it means there's no overlapping and no extra bits. So it always, when it checks for the coordinate, it basically covers the whole thing in 1. Because if I set this to 0 by default with landscapes, they repeat a lot. So setting it to 1 means it only goes 1 over the whole landscape. And yes, that's all you need to. You can always add in multiply or adding if you want to offset for some reason, but you don't normally need that much, so this is enough. So now it's good. Now we can put this into here, and of course, because this is white, it's not gonna change anything right now. Okay, let's see. So yeah, that's it for the snow texture really. So it mainly is just pushing it straight up and down, and then multiplying it by black and white. So when it's black, it's gonna pull it all the way back down to where it normally is. And why I want to push it up down in the start is that because when you use this world displacement, it doesn't actually displace the collision, so you need to push it down to the collision so it looks like you're walking on normal ground again. So yes, that's all it for the snow. Next up, we're gonna quickly create a new material for the footstep. And when this is done, there we go. Okay, I can just close this for now. We create a new material, footstep. Again, this doesn't. The only important bit is that the black bit pushes down, the white bit pushes up. So you can use whatever texture you want and any kind of detail. And later on, I'm gonna show you that the detail probably won't show that much depending on the size of the texture in the snow that is this displacement. We're gonna replace it later, but we can select the size of it, and the higher size means more detail is gonna show up. So yeah, okay, so footstep. Yes, we only need this in here, and I'm gonna do some math here, which isn't technically that much needed, but it's mainly just yeah, to invert it and also make sure that we get out what we want. Oh yeah, and for this we need to have it as modulate, because we want to modulate multiplies. So black, which is 0, is gonna make it push down to 0 or be 0 always. So it's gonna want to go down to 0, so it means that it doesn't look too strange very often, because if we were adding and like doing the additive, then it would add back in even if we wanted to push it down, so it would look strange. And to make it work, we need to set it to unlit, and in translucency, which normally is covered up here, you just remove separate translucency, and then you can use it. So yes, so multiplying the alpha, because we don't have separate translucency, so we don't have extra everything is just a black and white map when it comes out, so we do need to do some math. So multiply, and I want to have a parameter here which is going to be the strength of the footstep. This way we can set it later on to, if you wanted to push more down or less down to be more subtle, you can do that. And then we do 1 minus to get the inverted map, which now looks like this. And now we need to add in some extra, and this is mainly just because yeah, that this is where actually I'm using the translucency as best as I can, because when I multiply this out, and we need to make another one for this, but this is how much it's gonna push up. So because I can't get above 1 in the texture, I need to multiply it back in. So here is basically on the edges. I kind of wanted to, where it's black right there, I wanted to push up a bit extra. So this is what I'm doing with this, and so we're just gonna call it upmult. Upmult, yeah. And then for now I can set it to 1 just so we see what's happening. But it's gonna be a lot lower when it's done. So we get out what's actually counted as not translucent, which is what's supposed to be seen, and then we take the output here and multiply that, which means that we only get the edge which we want. So we won't change the footstep itself, and we won't change the outside, only the inside. And when we add this back in, you won't see it right here, but when I add this into emissive, there we go, you can see in the middle here, or maybe it's a bit easier to see. So yeah, on the edges you see that it's not affecting. In the middle here it's actually above 1. So yes, so it you get above 1 emissive, which will push it up a bit. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, so that's all what you really need. This I need to set a bit lower though. That's way too much, so 0.05 or something like that is normally what's good for that. There we go, so we save that, done. So footstep done. Next up, yes, so then we need to go over to the terrain. So this is where this is why I can't keep it as a normal terrain, and why we need to make it a blueprint. So from this we go over here and blueprint snow, and then BP snow. There we go. And first off, we can start setting the new snow material we just made, just to show how that looks again. Yeah, I like it. So yes, got that in, and now let me just check. Yes, okay. So let's start with the construction script, where we're gonna set up the materials. So create a dynamic material. Yes, for the static component, and here we're gonna just set it as the snow. This is so we can change some of the settings and have more options. Promote it to material variable. Dynamic snow, and set scalar parameter value. There we go. And this is one good reason to keep these up actually. Just open them for now. So I want to set the snow depth, snow offsets, yeah. So snow offsets, and then we promote it to variables, snow depth. So here we can start setting, and I can just show quickly how that looks. So set it to default to maybe 50, but if you go over here, I can like put it to 100, 200, it pushes it up, and then so I'm gonna keep it at Yeah, 100 is pretty good. Okay. Oh yes, I almost forget. In the actual terrain itself, we need to go down and change the collision complexity to use complex collision as simple. And it might require a bit more, but it's the only real good way of getting the proper collision location, because it's more accurate that way. You could probably make your own collision and it should work fine, but yeah, this is the most quickest and accurate way to do it. So as long as there's not a lot of things on the snow going around, then it should be pretty fine. Okay. So yeah, let's go here. So yeah, so now we can set the snow depth, and then we create another dynamic material instance, and this is for our footstep. We promote it to variable, make footstep, and here we need to set two scalar parameters. Set scalar parameter, and so yeah, it's the strength and the up multi. So strength, and then promote variable footsteps terrain, and we could probably make this and this easy to get, and then another one for the up multi. So again, this is in the footsteps. This decides how much the outside is gonna be pushed up. You don't need it, but I find it looks a lot nicer with it. So footstep up multi. There we go. So the strength, let's compile. So the strength can by default just be 1, and you can set it to lower or higher as needed, and the strength, this needs to be really low, like 0.03 or 4. I think 4 was a good one. Okay, but yeah, I can easily change later. So yeah, that's the construction script. Now we need to make a new function. Call it like render target. So this is to create a render target. And here it's a pretty simple one. So create render target. The only reason I'm doing this through a function is just to make it look nicer. So I can, through begin play, I can run it, or you can run it at a different point to make another render target. Gives a bit more options. So yeah, so this is the width and height. If you set it to higher, like 4K, it's gonna take more processing power, but overall it's going to look nicer and more detailed. So if you have a lower area that you're using the snow on, you can probably set this higher to make it look nicer. But the 2024 is pretty good medium. So this is the snow deform texture. This is the one that's going to deform our snow, and we clear run target, and not world context object, please, and then set this to white. So this just means that when it creates it, it's not gonna change at all because it's only 1. And if you go into the snow, it's basically gonna multiply the push up with 1, so it's not gonna change much at all. So yeah, clear it to 1 or white, and then from the dynamic snow we created, we're gonna set texture parameter value, and yeah, it's gonna set it as that, and this is the displacement texture we made. So this one. Let's just check. Yep, that should be good. Okay, so that's the displacement on for render target. Okay, now no, we're not gonna use any of this, and from here we just set render target. It's a bit bad name, but it also pretty accurately says what it does. So we just at begin play we run this run target, and the main reason why we can't do the construction script is because it doesn't really create it, and it kind of conflicts with not being created at the game directly. It might work, but I find this more accurate, or gives less error. Okay, so now over to event graph. We're gonna create a new custom event called like snow hit. So this is what's gonna fire every time when we do a trace. We're gonna trace, and this is gonna fire to basically create our footstep. So in here we mainly only need one, which is vector 2D, and this is going to be the UV coordinates that will be sent through. So that's why I call it UV look. And this is not directly needed, but it looks a bit nicer with having, or just rotate it. So the rotation of the footstep itself, so we get it's facing the right direction when doing it. So from here, begin draw, and we're gonna draw on our snow deformed texture, and then we're gonna set canvas material scale position. Yeah, I think this just properly set it up for what it needs to be, and also this is what sets the position properly. You probably could do it in the next node, but I find that this just works, so I do it through here. Okay, and so size out there, and then the position we're gonna use from the hit, which we're gonna send in later, and the scale, promote it to variable with shape scale, and this needs to be really small, at least in our in this one. When you make a terrain with 4x4, it needs to be as small as 0.04, and can only set it up, and like for if you make a bigger terrain, then this probably needs to be even smaller. Small terrain needs to be bigger, so this needs to be set at an individual basis. Then we do a draw material, and then use let's see. Oh no, sorry. It's not this. It's from canvas to be draw material, because it's yeah, this is more accurate than all the way. And then you screen position into screen position, and screen size, easy. And for render material, we want to render our footstep, so drop that in. And for the rotation, I noticed need to multiply it by -1, because it's apparently flipped all the way. And because my footstep right now, this one, you can see it's rotated 90 degrees to the clockwise, we need to anti-rotate it, so we need to I like doing pluses instead of negatives, but it's really -90 to rotate back in the way it's supposed to be. And there we go. And then and draw. Yes, perfect. And just make it look a bit nicer. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so next up, that's the snow taken care of. Next up, we need, so yes, so we need a third-person character for this one. So this one, and I'm gonna use the skeleton, and I already created once before, but this is where the trace is gonna go down from. So in my case, it's yeah, foot left and foot right, and just creating a new socket. Yeah, add socket, yeah, and then just call it. In this case I call it foot L and foot R, so that it can trace for one of each, for each of the foots. But this is not needed. Again, you can trace for anywhere, and it doesn't really matter. This is just to have a nice place to trace it from. So here we go. there's nothing in there now, so we only need our event graph really for this. So event tick. For anyone curious, I moved all the control stuff over to its own thing just to not clutter up the main one. So yes, out from here I'm just gonna do a quick delay. It's not absolutely needed, but I don't find drawing every frame is really needed or does much, so I find having a small delay just makes it not draw every frame. And then we're gonna see quick sequence for each of the feet, and out from here I'm gonna have yes, so get socket location from the mesh. So yes, so this is the sockets we made earlier. We're gonna check it here. So it's foot L and foot R. That's it. Just gonna double check. Yeah, the one word. Okay, and then we do a branch out here. I'm gonna add in the things. And yeah, holding B and clicking does that. So yeah. So for this, we're gonna actually just do a quick like equals and not equal actually, and with the tolerance of 1, and we're gonna make a new variable from this. So this is temp left temp look. So that this is gonna update so that it more or less just checking if the foot is standing still, and if it's standing still, there's no point of running through here, so it's gonna go false and not do anything. So we're gonna have but if it's not the same, then it's gonna go through, and then we're gonna set it. So we can just quickly do that now. So set. So yeah, if it is true, then we're gonna set it so that it updates to its new temporal location. But we're not done just there, because I found that we also could do a get socket transform, also from the mesh. We don't need 2, and using the same one and using actor, which means that we want to check if the foot, how much forward the foot is. If it's behind the character, far enough behind, it's not gonna count and it's gonna go false, and it's not actually gonna trace, so that we don't actually like push the snow behind the character, which I found looked very strange. So you just make sure that this is more than around -20. I find this good. So I'm not just checking if the foot is -20 in X compared to the character. So if you go over here, so it's more or less, it uses the character bones and as its default. So checking, is it minus, so if it's more forward than around here, like if it's in this area, then do that trace, but if it's behind there, don't do a trace. And then we just do a quick and, so both of them needs to be true, and if both of them are true, then do a trace. And also setting the new location so that it stays there. So yeah, after this you just do a trace, and you don't need to do all this stuff before here. You can just do a quick line trace by channel either way, it doesn't really care. Oh yeah, and let's just go back to this. I'm just gonna do a quick thing here, just making sure, because the collision preset is set default, and I'm not sure what default actually implies. I'm just always set to the block all. So yeah, it blocks everything either way. Okay, so yeah, just check for visibility. You can also check for objects, but visibility is the easiest one. Make sure trace complex is on, or else it's not going to work. We check this now location here as a start, and we do a minus vector minus vector, and then we split this, and we just say so this should be actually be variable, and this effect range. So more or less, if in this case I'm gonna set it around 70. So if the foot is 70 more units above the ground, it's not gonna, it doesn't hit, the trace doesn't hit. But if the foot is lower than 70 above the snow ground, and this again goes not with where the snow actually is where it looks like it is, but where the collision is. So if it is closer than 70, and you can set this up and down, more or less. The higher you set let's do this. The higher you set the snow depth, the higher this should also be, because it needs to, for it to trace properly and like hit in time, so it doesn't look like you are just clipping through the snow. But for this instance, 70 is good. So yes, so it traces from its the socket location and 70 down, and everything else is good. So let's do a quick branch, because if just to check that it did hit, so we don't do any extra work. And then from out here we do both find collision UV, and this is the new nice node that we're using. And I'm going to set the UV channel to 1, because the light map is more accurate most of the time. You can of course use 0 if you want to, but 1 most of the time hits more accurately, and it almost always gives from 0 to 1. If you set it to 0, especially with the landscape, it can give you like plus 100, minus 200 or something. Like it can give you some weird numbers. So this is the easiest way. And we also do a quick break hit result, and do out from hit actor. We want to cast to our BP snow, and only if it actually hits something. And from our BP snow we just do a snow hit. No, trace. Yeah, snow hit. That's what we call it. And there we go. And for the rotation we just get the mesh, and we get world rotation, and we take this set value, so it gives you the accurate compared to the actual model. We don't really care about these other things. We only care that if the character, which way its feet are facing. So there we go. That should be it. And let's try it out. Oh, right. When you make it, it's also easy to forget to check the player start, so we need to move this up. And we did set this as third person character. Yeah, just double check. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Yes, so now it's only doing for 1 foot. That's why you see it's so irregular. So it only does it for some time. So again, to quickly fix that, we can just actually copy this whole thing here and just change out a few things. So so what we need, there's not too much we need to change. There we go. Okay, so we need to make this foot R, so it checks the other socket. And then we need to change out this. Let's duplicate it, make it right, and let's change this out. So this, let's go there, and this here, and the output to start this and this, and input from that. There we go. And yeah, trace everything should be about the same. So it just does another check. There we go. There we go. So yes, there we go. Now it's working as intended. And yes, again, you can just do a trace all the time from each route if you wanted to. But yeah, I like to because if I'm turning like this, you would see that the snow would push out a bit behind the character more than it really should do. And yes, there's some problems when you go like around in small enough circles. You're gonna make these like bumps. I don't know any quick way of doing it. There's probably some smarter people that knows how to do that really easily, but I don't. And yeah, let's see. Yeah, you see the snow pushing up and pushing down where it needs to, and it creates these nice patterns. And yes, you also need to be careful. There's no collision there. Camera is gonna be easily get under, so you need to have how to set the collision sphere for the the camera a bit higher or something else to fix that, because you're gonna see under the snow quite easily if you don't. But there we go. I hope people like this. I'm gonna put my own project files down below so that anyone can access them, and I'm gonna also include the texture files that I made myself, and so you can create the exact same thing if you want to. I hope people like this, and hope it helps with making some new games. Thanks.